This is State of Michigan versus Ali Abutor. Excuse me if I mispronounced that. These are cases 240586961 and 240586951. Today is the date set for a bond redetermination hearing as to both matters. Appearances, please.
Judge, good morning. Always a pleasure. Steve Vincent for the people on both cases.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning to your staff and everybody here. Hassan Hamadi, P77565, on behalf Ali Abu Kuder, who's also present on Zoom. Mr. Ali Abu Kuder, can you state your name for the record, please?
Ali Abu Kuder.
All right, thank you, sir. Today is the date set for the redetermination hearing. Mr. Hamadi, this is the redetermination. Bond is intentionally unaffordable. Please tell me about your client as to bond.
So, Your Honor, I'm actually very happy that we had this redetermination because after receiving discovery, I learned a lot about this case and kind of what the prosecutor had presented in front of the magistrate in making his argument initially for $1 million cash bond, stating, and I quote, "This is one of the most gruesome cases I've seen." This is what the prosecutor said, right? My client is 42 years of age, no criminal history, well, no assaultive criminal history, no issues whatsoever. Has strong ties in the city of Dearborn, Detroit, Redford, owns rental property, a businessman, one who doesn't get in trouble. And then we get these two cases. He meets this woman in May, and allegedly these offenses happened in July. I will tell the court, just to get it clear, when brother prosecutor was reciting the narrative of what occurred, he was literally reading her story from her statement, right? What she wrote out. What I failed, because I didn't have the report at the time, is to actually look at her statements where there was a question and answer. So I would just like to say to the court that in the July 14th alleged incident, her own statement on what she responded to in a question is, when it stated, he made this, strike that, Your Honor, I apologize. The prosecutor made sure he said she lost consciousness over and over again. And I'm not making this up because it's actually recorded on YouTube and Channel 4 posted it. And that's exactly what prosecutor said. But in her own statement, when on page 22 of the discovery, when it said, "Did you lose consciousness during the assault?" her answer was no. When it stated, "Was a weapon used when you were assaulted?" her answer was no. I don't know where they got torture. I don't know where they got assault with the intent to murder. And I don't know where they got $1 million bond to be the most gruesome case they've ever seen. That was the July 14 alleged incident. On the great bodily harm case, which is the other case, again, if we just go to her questions, "Did you lose consciousness?" No. Page 12. "Were you injured?" No. But it is not hard, but it is hard to swallow. So in a second case, she wasn't even injured. I have no idea where they come up with this $1 million bond. The magistrate reduced our bond to $300,000 cash surety on one case and $50,000 cash surety on the other. I will tell this court, my client will maintain his innocence. I believe the bond is not reasonable under the circumstance in this case. The defendant in this case was never questioned by the detectives, was never caught on the scene of this alleged incident. They have no proof other than her statement that this happened. They use these pictures that they put in their investigation to say, this is what my client did, but they have no proof where these pictures came from, whether my client did it or not. And I'm very disturbed after I actually read the discovery. And then this is what they portrayed during the initial bond hearing as a narrative. Like it just blew my mind. So I'm asking this court actually to give him a $50,000 10% bond. They wanted home confinement. I will ask the court that does not happen. He can be on a GPS tether just to make sure that if this court wants to make sure that this alleged victim is safe, he stays away from her. He will reside at his mother's house. And if the alleged victim is no longer living in his house, then I would ask the court that he return home and in Redford. I think it's the city of Detroit zip code near Redford. And that's what I think is reasonable in this case. This is not someone who has a criminal history of assault with the intent to murder or somebody who has domestic violence cases. This is an individual who was set up. And I will tell the court this. This incident happened allegedly July 14th. And this is my last point to the court. She indicated that she was tortured for 3 days to July 17th. The police come out on July 17th and take her statement. 4 days later, Your Honor, she makes this other allegation that she was choked, and that's how they get case number 2, which is great bodily harm. I will tell the court, though, that if we wonder why they fought July 21st, in her own statement, question, what did you argue about? Answer, me packing my stuff up and getting my hair colored. This is an individual who jumped from July 14th to July 17th, was tortured, was imprisoned, was almost assaulted with the intent to murder. But then on July 21st, the argument was about getting your hair colored. That's what the prosecutor's office is relying on, that this is a reasonable bond and that my client is guilty. That's all I want to tell the court. I think their report is very telling, and that's what I'm asking for in a bond, and I believe that it's reasonable.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Vincent Esteban.
Judge, a lot there, but I'm gonna be brief in this. I did ask for $1 million. This is probably one of the most horrendous and gruesome cases that I've seen. Now, ironically, defense counsel was offered pictures at the time of the arraignment. He refused to accept them. I ended up forwarding them to you, though, because I wanted you to see these. I wanted you to see exactly what happened as a direct result of this alleged incident. We're not talking about guilt or innocence right now. What we're talking about are allegations that one individual ended up beating somebody repeatedly, not over 3 days, like defense counsel had just said, from July 14th through 15th. And I think we can all see allegedly, what happened here. It's in the investigator's report. We have multiple strikings, which corroborate the injuries of this victim based on the pictures. We have striking of a belt repeatedly. And Judge, I may be remiss, but I don't know if somebody could actually cause those injuries to themselves. That's why I wanted you to see those pictures. Ironically, they look as though a belt was used to beat this individual multiple times. Then we have the drag of the individual up the stairs, where her head repeatedly hit all the stairs, each and every time. And then what defense counsel failed to mention was this gal's pregnant. And as a direct result of the assault, the assaults ended up inducing vaginal bleeding. Vaginal bleeding. We can all imagine then the outcome of that, seeing as though we have a gal who's pregnant. And then we have all the statements allegedly made by this defendant, brazen enough to say that she doesn't deserve his baby. He knows she's pregnant while she's being beaten by this defendant repeatedly. Then there's the report to the police afterwards. And then we have a subsequent incident. Now, I asked for $1 million. That may have been light. And this wasn't, let's all be accurate here. This wasn't reduced. The magistrate ended up giving a $300,000 cash or surety bond. This particular hearing is either for a reduction being reduced or an increase. I would argue $1 million is conservative in this. But then we have that other incident a few days later, where just because this gal ended up wanting to leave the house, this individual beats her again. So, Judge, we have a lot going on here. We have 2 incidents within less than a week. We have those pictures that are absolutely shocking. They shock the conscience. And I get why defense counsel didn't want to see them. I wouldn't want to see them. Nobody should go through that. But they're there, and we cannot deny that. So she didn't assault herself. I don't know what kind of narrative it is that defense counsel is claiming the prosecution, myself, made. But we just have these things over. We have the assault. We have the accusations. We have the pictures. So he's a danger. He's a danger right now. Respectfully, Judge, we're going to be asking you to either continue it, the 300,000 plus. I think I ended up getting 50,000 on the GBH case. And one other thing, Judge, you've been through this. You know what? You're very learned in your approach. We have a victim. She's scared. She's scared. Okay, so any statements she may or may not have made at the time, I have APA notes that say she's cooperative and she wants to move forward with this. So that isn't time or place, and I just want to let you know that right now, to keep these two parties for the protection of this complainant, we're going to ask you to continue these bonds.
All right, give me a moment.
Your Honor,
Go ahead, Mr. Hunt, then I'll take a break.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You can go ahead, then I'll stop and read something.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Your Honor, I do want to address a couple things. Number one, I've actually never dealt with this prosecutor in particular, but I will tell this court, this court's very familiar with the way I practice, and I don't believe this specific prosecutor has ever talked to the complaining witness. I brought up to the magistrate that I have two.
She's right here next to me, counselor.
Okay, if I may finish, okay. I have two police statements that were signed on August 4th by this alleged victim that stated she didn't want to proceed with this case. I will also tell the court that in page 3 of the investigator's report, she stated she was allegedly punched on both sides of her face approximately 100 times. But the prosecutor yet can only send us pictures of thighs of bruises. And he continues to use this as being so gruesome. But I would believe in my mind, if there was 100 blows to the face, and that there were strikes to the face, that there would be pictures that she would have given the prosecutor's office or even the police department of the way her facial recognition looked that day, right? I will also tell the court that the prosecutor's office doesn't even know where this young woman had met my client. And I'm not going to dive into that right now, right? But I think it's going to be very telling when this case goes to trial if this moves forward. But I will tell you, it's not hard, Your Honor, to keep Mr. Abu Huder away from this alleged victim. And you do this every day. If you put somebody on a GPS tether and you give them a reasonable bond, there's no point of giving somebody a tether and then $1 million bond, right? There's just no point. And then, I'm sorry, home confinement, right? Because if he's confined to his home and he violates that, he's going to get picked up. So it doesn't make sense to me. It's not reasonable. That's why I'm asking for a 50,000, 10% bond, because we can put a GPS tether on Mr. Abu Huder. She could stay far away. He could stay far away from the victim. He wants nothing to do with her, and we'll move forward with the case. So there's just too many inconsistencies in the police reports. And then to say that this happened twice in 1 week. Well, the first time she alleges this happened, she went and stayed with her mom. That's what the report says. Why would she come back to the home if she was so in danger? It doesn't make any sense to me. This is all made up. This is all made up to frame my client because my client has money.
All right, Mr. Vince, I give you one more shot.
I believe in that second incident, she was actually just trying to get her belongings to leave. So maybe that's the reason why she was at the place of the incident. And regarding this, I don't know if there's any motive that's been established as to why this victim would do what she did. Judge, I mean, they're just everything here. Just hey, listen, but you know what? We just kind of take what it is and go with it. These injuries are, I mean, they're synonymous. I mean, the pictures in and of itself. You know, the belt, the belt marks on the back. I mean, we have a little too much here. And you know what? People, they leave houses when they're on tether. And you know what? There's communication that they can have now that they're out. That's what we're trying to prevent right now. Because this gal is scared. She was injured, not once, but twice. We don't know the condition of her baby at this time, Judge. This is exactly what cash bonds are for. To protect these individuals from for all intent and purposes, monsters like this.
Your Honor, I object to any
Stop,
testimony.
stop, both of you, please. I said I give you one more shot. Mr. Hamada gave you two. Hold tight, give me a moment, I'll make my ruling. I'm not gonna go through this back and forth. All right. I've had a chance to review the investigators' reports as well as hear arguments from both parties. I would note that these redetermination hearings are heard de novo. I hear what's in front of me and I make my determination. I've got two cases in front of me, and I'm going to start with the case 240586961, which is the incident with the offense date of July 14th, 2024. At this time, the bond is currently set at $300,000 cash as surety. I'm going to reduce the bond to $100,000, 10%, with GPS tether and home confinement while this matter is pending. I will make an exception for medical treatment at this time, but nothing else. As to case 240586951, it's going to be $50,000 personal with GPS tether home confinement consistent with the terms of the other case. There'll be no contact with the complaining witness, no weapons while this matter is pending. Next dates on both matters are before Judge King, August 15th, 2024 at 8:30. That concludes these hearings.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it.